7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the premiere episode of Inside Pacer Nation for this academic/sports year. I'm Marcus Johnson, joined once again by Jordan Phillips to bring you all the inside info on the Pacer sports you know and love.
Good to see you guys, and we hope you enjoy Season 2 of Inside Pacer Nation as much as we're going to enjoy recording and producing it for you guys.
If you want to say that, go ahead. Yeah, this will be a fun year in sports, though. Pacers coming off of a really great fall from last year, hoping to add on to that. Let's go ahead and start things off with cross country. Not a whole lot to talk about just yet, but they're starting their season very soon. It's coming up this weekend.
They do start their season very soon this weekend, and just hope for a big year for them.
And hopefully they won't have another hurricane come in and crash their meets like they did last year with Matthew. And we have a hurricane right off the coast as well, and we're going to keep a close eye on that, and hopefully that won't impact any of the sports for the near future.
Yeah, absolutely. Hope for the best when it comes to the weather, and maybe we'll see all of our cross-country meets taking place this year, unlike last season.
Yeah, last season we had to cancel the one here in Aiken, trying to make that up this year. So, weather will tell, time will tell. But that's really not a whole lot to talk about with cross country just yet. A lot of the players are coming back, though, from last season. Hopefully they'll have a bit more of an improvement. Maybe we'll have some all-regions, All-Americans, you never know.
Look for a big year from cross country, and we'll update you guys some more once we have a little bit more information about those teams.
Move on into soccer, which has just gotten underway. Last week they started, and already after the few games that we've seen, they've made a bit of an improvement from last year.
They have, especially women's soccer. Women's soccer last year was unable to win any games here in Aiken, here at the Pacer Pit, and they knocked that out of the way in the very first game of the season, defeating Mars Hill in a pretty convincing fashion, 4-1, I believe the final score of that game.
Yeah, 4-1 was the final score on a pretty dreary day, too. Conditions were not optimal.
Yeah, we weren't even sure if we were going to have the game, but thankfully conditions cleared up enough for us to have it. Saw some big goals from players like Sarah Moore, and Tori Caldwell had a goal as well.
Now, they did drop a game to Lenore Rhine. However, as bad as that game was, where they did get shut out, and I believe 6 goals were scored against them in that game, you really can't look at that as a real indicator of what this team can do. Lenore Rhine was just coming off of knocking off a nationally ranked team. And they're probably already nationally ranked, and if they're not, they will be soon. So losing 6-0 to a team like that, even though it was at home, you really can't blame them for that. And they just not too long ago, I believe it was on Wednesday night, they went on the road and they came away with a win there. So that was some good news.
They did indeed. They defeated North Greenville 1-0 in that game.
Yeah, 1-0. Doesn't matter how many goals you score as long as you score more than your opponent.
Exactly.
And men's soccer, which did manage to make the Peach Belt Conference tournament last year, though they did get eliminated in the quarterfinals, they're looking better. Just a couple little notes that I'd like to say on men's soccer. While they did finish in a tie on the last game that we broadcasted, they were down in the double overtime the overtime session that they went into. They were down 2 players thanks to some red cards, and they still managed to keep that game a tie. But Driss Barraquette has been looking really good. He's already scored a hat trick in one of his games, 4 goals altogether on the season. And the one thing that I would say about him, though, is he maybe needs to stop trying to be so flashy with it. You can see he's trying to put on a show out there. And while that is entertaining, maybe he needs to – I'm no expert. I'll be honest. I'm no expert. But he may need to kind of settle down a little bit, look for those open lanes, get the passes through, and try to put him on net. Andre Simon, big congratulations to Andre Simon as well. Recently, he has taken over first place for USC Aiken history with the most assists. The record was 25, which he shared, and he broke that with 26. And if I'm not mistaken, he's already gotten a couple more. One of them was on he's got one more, as I've just been told. A beautiful corner kick that it was just textbook passing that went straight in there.
And that's the one thing that you can see already this season with the men's soccer team is that relationship between Barraquette and Simmons on the field is already developing, and it's already shown to be a really deadly combination. Those two guys are really good individually, but together they have formed something that's pretty awesome. Their communication on the field is great. They're passing back and forth. Both of them have incredibly talented feet. They're great with their dribbling. They're great with their passing. And Barraquette has already shown how deadly he can be when he gets the ball in his hands.
Oh yeah,
so to
I
speak.
mean, yeah, and he's got beautiful footwork. But that's been something I've been noticing early on is USC Aiken's footwork has been getting better each and every game. Their passing is still just slightly off. I think their timing could be just a little bit better, but you can see that Coach Afoji has been working with these guys, and they're looking a lot better. And even the keepers, they've been making some very nice saves. And Coach Afoji's been switching out his keepers every now and again, but so far so good. And I really would not be. I'm honestly going to say that they'll be in the PBC tournament this year if they keep this level of play up. If they can get a little bit better, you never know. They could go deeper in there, even win the PBC tournament. I'm not gonna call a PBC championship just yet. It's still early, and I can't really do that. But you want me to call one? I'm gonna call one for volleyball, our next sport that we're going into.
And I mean, you take a team that came off of a dominant season last year. They looked fantastic all season long, and then you look at them again this year, and they look even better. And you look at the teams that they played last year, they played really talented teams, especially in that regional tournament. They played teams like Barton, Queens, and they made those teams look weak by comparison, and it's really encouraging to see that. But it's even more so encouraging to see the results that they've already had this season, going down to the tournament in Florida and splitting 2-2. You didn't really know how well they were going to do, honestly, at the start of that tournament. You hoped for the best, of course, but you couldn't really predict it. There were a lot of talented teams down there in that tournament, USC Aiken being among them, but you didn't know how they were going to do. And to manage to come away with a split, coming away with 2 wins and 2 losses, an awesome way to start the season.
Yeah, the first day of that tournament, they did drop the first 2 games. A lot of that could have been just they weren't gelling at the time. They had a bunch of new freshmen, and Coach Cox was trying to get those freshmen to start playing, to start melding in with the rest of the team. But these freshmen are going to be good. I watched them in practice a little while ago. They did a great job. They seem to be working well with the team. The veteran players have come through big time and really helped them get adjusted to the college experience. And a lot of those who were freshmen last year, now the sophomores, I think are going to make a huge impact on this team, especially sophomores like Christine Carroll, who, and you and I were talking about this not too long ago offset, saying, you know, she will either be all conference, all region, all American, or all 3, at least one of those 3 in each of these next 3 years.
I think she has the level of talent to be an All-American in her final 2 seasons. I think that may be a bit of a bold prediction to go so far as to say that she'll be an All-American this season. However, I could easily see her being All-American level talent in her junior and senior years. And another player that I'm excited to see, and it may be because we share a hometown, but that has nothing to do with anything, is redshirt freshman Kelsey Sperlin. I've been hearing a lot of good things about her from coaches and admins on the team, and I've been hearing a lot about her talent. I'm excited to see how well she does in her first season of playing.
Yeah, she was featured on the What to Watch Fors, and from what I've been seeing, she's been good too in the practices. She'll be coming through big. Another one that's going to possibly have a big impact would be Avery Macklin. Avery Macklin is she's really gotten herself into great shape this year. You can just tell she's a lot stronger and everything. She can get up there and put her and Christine Carroll in the same blocking formation. Like, oh, geez.
Having 2 players up the middle that are both 6 feet tall is definitely not going to hurt your cause at all. And if they can get up there and make some impact plays and generate some points on offense, that could be a deadly combination to look out for this season.
And the final player that I want to highlight would be, for the sophomores at least, would be Rebecca Martinez, who's going to be taking over at libero, replacing Danielle Mercer from last year, who set the school and Peach Belt records for digs in a single season. And honestly, that record might not stand for much longer because what I'm hearing about Rebecca Martinez from coaches, players, and even just personal observations is she's going to be a great libero, and she's going to get a lot of opportunities to get that dig record.
Well, I mean, you could easily see it last season. She has the talent. She has the ability to go and get that record. It's just a matter of whether or not she goes and grabs it. And I think she easily could. I think we could easily see her set that digs record at some point in the next 3 seasons, if not this season to coming up.
Yeah, those are the four sophomores that we wanted to look at. But looking at the seniors coming in, another player that's going to have a big year, Julia Forster. She had a great year last year in her junior year, paired up with Taylor Stratton, and I don't think she's lost a step at all. I think she's going to pick up right where she left off and possibly move up the scoring ranks even higher.
Yeah, Forster's going to have a big year. I mean, it would be hard to fall off from a year like she had last year. I mean, obviously the expectations are high, but I think she's game to meet those expectations, and I think she's beyond capable of making those expectations and even exceeding them. Now, one player that I'm excited about as far as upperclassmen goes is Alicia Hines. I've always been a big fan of hers, and she came in last year. You would see her come in, and she always did really good backing up Taylor Stratton. She did really well last season in the opportunities that she had, and I think this year, seeing her get her opportunity, I think she's going to make the most of it, and I think she's going to have a huge season for the Pacers.
I mean, yeah, Alicia Hines will do a great job as well, and I like her attitude as well. Just talking with her for just a little bit, she had a really positive attitude, just a big smile on her face. And I think that's going to rub off on a lot of the other players. And that's another thing with these girls. They seem to have fun playing the game. And, I mean, when you're one of the top teams in the nation, you're obviously going to have fun playing the game. When you're a defending regional champion, you're going to have fun playing the game. And going on with that, the regional championship line, bold prediction. I like to make bold predictions. And I love it. I hate it when they come back to bite me, but I love it when they come true. But I'll say this: they have a great chance at winning the Peach Belt Conference, the regular season conference. That is an easily attainable goal. The tournament championship, I'm not entirely sure they're gonna win that, and the only reason, even if they host, and the only reason I say that is if they're the top team in the region going into the tournament, I'm not sure they're gonna want to really wipe themselves out, knowing they're already hosting the tournament, knowing that they're in it. And, I'm sorry, but Georgia College is actually going to host the tournament, so I've just been handed a note. So thank you to our SID, Brent Hager, for correcting me before I made an even bigger fool of myself.
Ever gentle with his passing of notes is Brent Hager. And legendary in the sports information world for his note passing abilities.
Indeed. So Georgia College will host the Peach Belt tournament, so we don't even have to worry about that.
Don't have to worry about that. That's no longer an issue.
So don't even have to worry about the Pacers hosting that. But even so, continuing on where I left off, if I say if
or when,
so we'll stick with if. We don't want to jinx anybody. If the Pacers make the tournament, if the Pacers are the number 1 seed in the regionals, then they're not good. I don't think they're going to kill themselves in the tournament, in the Peach Belt Conference tournament, and they may still win it. I mean, they could still win. If they have a great enough squad that they give 80%, they probably would still pull off some major victories. But they also have to compete with teams like Flagler in the Peach Belt Conference, and that's always a tough competition.
Flagler is always a tough challenge for the Pacers. They are year in and year out. They split the series with them last year 1-1, and they won here at Aiken, of course.
And they'll have a similar scenario this year, one in Flagler, one in USCA.
Absolutely. And it'll be interesting to see how that goes. And I mean, and even apart from teams like Flagler, there are teams like Augusta University who may not necessarily be as tough of an opponent as Flagler, but in a rivalry setting, you never know what's going to happen. I mean, you could go in there and you could have a better team, but because of that rivalry, because the players want to beat the other team so badly, you never know what's going to happen. So it's an interesting season. It's going to be a great season for the Pacers. I share your prediction of a regional tournament berth for this Pacer team. I think they have the potential to be even better than they were last year. They have the talent. It's all in whether or not they generate the same kind of offense and the same kind of play that they did last year. And I think they are beyond capable of doing so.
And some more bold predictions for the regional champion, not just USC Aiken. If USC Aiken hosts the regional tournament, I give them a very good chance of winning. If you obviously you play on your home court, you always are going to have a great chance. But the one team that I really think that this Pacer squad has to look out for in the future is Queens. Wingate's going to be a tough one. Wingate's always tough. They put together a great squad every year. But after what I saw from Queens last year in the regional tournament, they are going to be a tough team. And if USC Aiken does not host the regional, I'm going to put money on it that Queens is going to take it.
I'll take that bet.
All right, he'll take that bet.
But I would imagine that hosting the regional tournament is going to be a big point of emphasis for Coach Cox. He saw how much success his team had in the regional tournament because of hosting it. I think if you had taken last year's regional tournament, the finals, going down 2-0 to Queens, if you had moved that to another venue, I don't think the Pacers would have been able to come back from those odds. But here, having those odds stacked against you, but being able to have your home crowd behind you, I think was a huge plus for the Pacers, and I think Coach Cox knows that.
And this volleyball team also has a chance at making some history. Volleyball needs only 20 wins this year. 20 wins, and I would like to point this out. They had 31 wins last year, so they only need 20.
And 27 the year before that.
And 27 the year before that, so it's a very easily attainable goal, but they only need 20 wins this year to become the winningest four-year class in our D2 history. 10 PBC wins to become the winningest four-year class in our PBC history. So the teams that Coach Glenn Cox has put together have been outstanding in these past few years, and they are only getting better.
And that has got me very, very excited to watch this team this season. You know, we love all of our sports here, but volleyball holds a special place in my heart, and I imagine in Marcus's as well. They were the team that, you know, we got to call them winning the regional tournament and going to the Elite Eight last season. It was an awesome experience.
And sadly, we couldn't go to the Elite Eight, but it was in South Dakota, and maybe we lucked out not having to go.
You know, I'm Southern born and raised. It's a little too cold for me up there.
I'm Northern born and raised, but I can admit that South Dakota is just a little chilly.
Just a little bit. I saw Snapchats from the team while they were up there showing 9 degrees and things like that, and I was like, you know, maybe it's not such a bad thing that I didn't go.
But if the Pacers do go on to the Elite Eight this year, that's going to be in Florida, and even if we can't go, even if the university can't afford to send us, I'm going anyway.
I was about to say, you know what that sounds like to me, partner? That sounds like a road trip.
Road trip. You're driving, not me.
That's fine. I'm driving your car.
It's not my car. Not my car, so... Anyway, but yeah, volleyball action actually will be continuing tonight. They will be starting up the Pacer tournament that's going on, which includes teams like Barton that they played in the regional, and of course the Augusta Jaguars, the rivals. They will not be playing Augusta in that tournament, but in case anybody here has any of our listeners has some family that go to Augusta or play for Augusta, even. I mean, we're close enough cities.
I feel
it's
like
possible.
It is sister cities.
Yep,
you could say.
You can come on up and watch those teams play. It should be a lot of fun. Jordan and I will be there calling the games. We may not be calling them together, but we will be there. Nonetheless, having a good old-fashioned fun time.
It will be a great time. Come on out and see the action. It'll be the Pacers will be playing one game at 3 p.m. on this evening with University of Mount Olive. And then they will be playing again tonight at 7 against Barton College, as you mentioned. That's going to be an excellent game, and I would not miss it if I were you.
Any regional rematches are always going to be fun. You make the regional tournament, you're obviously doing something good, and Barton may be wanting a little bit of payback on the Pacers.
Absolutely. The Pacers won that match 3-0 last season, so I can imagine Barton's coming in hungry, and they don't want to let that happen again.
Yeah, but it was a lot of fun last year. We're hoping volleyball's going to be a lot of fun this year. 2-2 to start the season up. They're coming in for this home turf tournament, and we'll see how they do there, if they can improve that record even more. But it's going to be fun. It's
a great time for USC Aiken sports. There's a lot of optimism surrounding every single team. Both of the soccer teams look improved from last year. Volleyball looks great. As always, cross country is hoping to have all of their meets this year, and they can improve their record from last year. It's a great time to be a Pacer fan, and it's a great time to be a part of this athletics program.
Now let's actually look ahead to some of the later fall sports that are coming up, including basketball. Basketball, as we've stated many times, basketball is one of the things at this university that we are used to doing well. In volleyball, we're not so used to doing well in just yet. Well, hopefully that'll start to settle in
as
time goes on. Yeah, but basketball is one of our big sports here at this university. Obviously, 2 regional championships back in 2013 and 2014 for the men's, and constant PBC berths and championships for the women. Last year, the men showed great improvement under head coach Mark Vanderslice. It was his second year, and he got them to become a whole lot better, more than doubling, if not tripling, the number of wins in the season.
He did, and it was a great season last year for the men. As you mentioned, they showed incredible improvement from the way they played the year before. It was Coach Vanderslice's first season that year. Had to have time to get his recruits in, get his system in place, and when he had the chance to do that, the Pacers shined. They had really great games, did the men's basketball team last season. A couple of games that were pretty close, a couple of games they maybe should have taken, but lost due to, this or that circumstance. A couple of games I bet they wish they had back, but this season is the time to get those games back.
And another thing with men's basketball, we've got Henry Bolton III. Henry Bolton has been, last year, really turned things on in the second half of the season. And I didn't get to call all of the games, but the ones that I did get to call, he seemed to put up 20 points. And if that was a trend, then that means he could have a great year this year and put up even better numbers. I mean,
Henry Bolton III was a scoring machine last season. And I think that having him come back this season is going to be huge for the Pacers. I expect him to have a huge, huge year for the Pacers. It's going to be a great season for him. But another player that I'm looking forward to seeing is Faison Brock. I'm excited to see how he does this season. But even more so than Faison Brock, I'm excited to see Austin Grimes. Austin Grimes, I think, has a chance to have a huge year this year. He showed flashes of brilliance last year, and I think he can do the same this year in an expanded role with the team.
Another one that I like, Nenad Milinkovic. I love his attitude in the game. He's always, you see him on the bench, and he's always shouting out words of encouragement to his teammates. And he's not a bad player either. He's not the biggest player out there, but he's
reliable for quick points. Nenad Milinkovic has a great three-point shot. If you need somebody to come off the bench and get you a quick three-pointer, Nenad Milinkovic is among the best that you can have do that. And like you said, he's got a great attitude. The energy he brings to the floor is incredible. And, it's kind of a cliche and it's an unmeasurable stat, but grit is a very real thing, and he's got it. He comes out there and he plays with passion, he plays with heart, and it's easy to see how much of a swing that is for the Pacers on offense when he's on the floor.
And one of the another player to look out for is now the sophomore Rob Hill, who as a freshman was one of the biggest players on the team. And this an 18, 19-year-old freshman who is bigger, taller, stronger than some of the seniors on that team, including Kevin Schwisu, who he rivaled in terms of size. But I think Rob Hill, he's just going to keep on growing. He's still got some room in those shoes to grow. And I think he's going to be even bigger force under the net this year.
I think so as well. I would say that he has a chance to be one of the biggest rebounders in the PBC. He's got the size, he's got the physicality, and I think he's got the attitude to do it as well. He knows that he's bigger than everybody else, and he's not afraid to bully you to get those rebounds, and that's one of the things that's important to have in basketball.
Yeah, when you got him and Kevin Schwisu both on the same team, you can send either one of them out there and not have to worry too much about that space underneath the basket. They're going to take up a lot of it, and they got a good chance of getting the ball. Both of those guys, especially Rob Hill, with the chance to grow even bigger than he is right now, I think that he's going to be putting up some great numbers on the rebounds, like you said. And I'd look for him to score a few points too. I think he's big enough that he can get the ball off the rebound and immediately put it right back up and get two.
Absolutely. And another player that you need to have a big season out of is going to be Paris Ballinger. Being the new starting point guard, I would imagine, is going to be huge for the Pacers. You had Christian Nobles last year. Christian Nobles was one of the best slashers in the game in the PBC. His ability to get to the net and generate points was incredible. Paris Ballinger's got he's got very big shoes to fill in that point guard position, and I think he's game to fill them.
Yeah, and I mean, I hope so, because Christian Nobles last year was a treat to watch. Guy had some very smooth hands that were just, I mean, he could move that ball up the court really fast, and he didn't even have to move the ball up the court, as we saw in that one game where he made a buzzer beater basket at the half from 3/4 of the court.
I remember that shot. It was an incredible shot.
I still can't believe it. I actually go back, I have got that video tagged, that spot tagged, because I just love rewatching that shot. It was just so beautiful.
It's a very fun shot to call, especially for us.
But another thing, Tevin Light, I believe his name is. If I can read that, my eyesight isn't good. Tevin Light, he's a 6'8" center, as I've just been given these notes. Tevin Light, 6'8" center, a senior transfer, and as we were talking about Rob Hill being big, this guy's built like a house.
Yeah, he is huge. 6'8", 240 pounds. That is somebody that you do not want to be fighting for a basketball. That is a big man. That is a strong
That's
man.
a heavyweight fighter right there.
That is a heavyweight fighter and a half, I think.
I think even though he's not in the same weight class, I think Moneybags may want to be a little careful around that guy.
Hey, man, a guy that size is great to have if he has the athleticism to go with that frame, which he obviously does. Coach Mark Vandersloot wouldn't bring him in if he didn't.
And that's one of the things that USC Aiken likes to do, is they don't necessarily need to get guys from the freshman class, but they'll pick up senior and junior transfers from other schools to fill in the gaps that they lose. I mean, Christian Nobles last year was one of those. He came in for his senior year, played a great season with the Pacers, made a lot of memories for just 1 year, and then he goes on off, walks across the stage, grabs that diploma, heads on out.
And he did great. He did great for the Pacers last season, and it was great to see him do as good as he did. I was very excited. I recognized him from his time at Payne, and it was very awesome to see him have the kind of year here that he did. And since we're talking about basketball, we're talking a lot about the men, but we got to cover the ladies as well, And the one thing that I'm curious to see about the women's team is how they're going to respond to losing as many seniors as they did that had such an impact on the team last season. When you lose a player like Rocky Apont to graduation, it is huge. It's a huge loss. Rocky Apont was absolutely massive for this Pacers offense last season, and not only her. You had players like Jasmine Coach and Kate Duff and even Carly Gilreath, who really turned it on for her senior year last year. And you lose those players, and you got to find players to step it up. And it will be interesting to see if the Pacers can do that this year, if Coach Mark Miller can put together a team with as much success as the one had last year.
Yeah, I mean, losing Carly Gilreath, I think, is going to be a really big blow to the Pacers. She was a great setup player, and she was a great playmaker too. And losing her is a heavy blow, really. But before we go too deep into women's basketball, I do want to backtrack to men's basketball, because we've just been handed some more information. I know we're getting information all the time, but we got a new transfer, Marcus Terry, a 6'2" redshirt senior out of Presbyterian College. He's a pure scorer, so that is going to be huge, especially with the loss of Mark Matthews from last year.
Marcus was with the team last season. He was redshirted last year, and he played on the bench, or he sat the season out. And he was one of the players that I didn't really know much about him. I am excited to see how he does, though, because I remember seeing him on the bench and being curious about him and about his ability. I never got to really watch him that much in practice or anything like that. But I'm very excited to see how he does this season. I think he could have a huge impact for the Pacers this year.
Yeah, let's hope so. But now we can go right back to women's basketball. So,
one of the things that I'm excited to see for the Pacers this year is that duo of Kwajalein Farah and Emily Waters. They are great in that they're both tall. They're both their ability to get rebounds. Kwajalein Farrell last year as a freshman was fantastic. She was able to score. She was getting rebounds. She was playing great defense. She had a couple of spots where she had some missteps, but I mean, as a freshman, that is not encouraged, but it is not to be. You don't have to dwell on it too much because as a freshman, you kind of have to expect that kind of thing. And Emily Waters was the same way. She had a lot of bright moments and a couple of moments where she needed to improve some, but that's what this year's for. She's a sophomore now, and it'll be interesting to see how much those two have developed over the course of the summer.
And one of the real big things that this team's going to have this year is head coach Mark Miller has said that this may be the fastest team he's ever had. And speed is huge in the game, especially if you can keep that speed up for later on in the games. I mean, as the saying goes, the legs feed the wolf, and if you can have high-speed players going on for 4 quarters of women's basketball, that's going to be some dangerous stuff. They're going to have a lot of steals this year, a lot of takeaways, and we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah, and if you can generate those takeaways and those breakaway plays, that's offense right there, and that's an easy way to get yourself either back into a game or to pull ahead in a game.
And the thing is, the women's team last year, they were good. They were good. They weren't great, though. They had a stretch there around the middle of the season where they were playing some good basketball, but then they started to cool off, and I think that might have been them just getting tired a little bit. But if they can be better conditioned this year, and if they're fast, and if they stay fast, they could be really, really dangerous. They may not be a PBC contender. They may not win the PBC. They may not even make it to the NCAA tournament, but they could play spoiler, and they can get better, and they can start drawing in more recruits.
I will predict this season for the women's team, I will predict a low tournament berth, a low seed tournament berth. I don't think they'll be a...
Hey, you're going to say low seed. I'm going to say mid seed.
You say mid seed?
I think they're a mid seed team at least.
I will say a 7 to 8 seed, but even a low seed tournament berth is a tournament berth, and it's something to be celebrated, especially when the team wasn't able to get one last year.
Hey, every now and again that number 8 comes in and upsets the number 1, moves on through. It doesn't happen often, but when it does, it is certainly memorable.
It absolutely is, and there's nothing wrong with being a low seed as long as you are a seed. I'd rather be an 8 seed than a no seed at all.
So, with all that said, I think the new AD, Jim Herlihy, is going to have a great year, his first full year as the athletic director of USC Aiken. He may even walk away with a regional championship. We sent former AD Randy Warwick off with a regional championship in volleyball. Let's see if we can give the new AD a regional championship, if not a national championship in volleyball, and maybe some conference championships in some of the other sports, including, I mean, you never know with basketball, it could happen. Men's basketball, they have a shot. Women's basketball, they have an outside shot. Soccer.
Golf as well.
Well, I mean, that's going into the spring. I mean, golf always has a shot. Golf has a shot at a national championship every year. But, I mean, looking at those, I mean, if you want to look at the spring sports, you could say baseball's got a shot at something. They always put together a good baseball team. I mean, they just seem to not be able to finish strong, but they're always in there. They're always in the mix. Last year, they were number 1 at one point in the nation. So, I mean, we'll see what happens. And, I mean, well, that's the one thing, though, I will say about baseball is the new AD is big on baseball. So we may be seeing some extra incentive in this baseball team. They may want to impress.
You said all this to say all that. Jim Herlihy could definitely have inherited a worse situation when it comes to his athletics programs. He's got a lot of great teams that he's inherited, and I am excited to see what he does with these teams in the future.
Has some great teams, some great staff, and some great fans, which you folks are. And with that, I think we could call it a night. That is the latest on Inside Pacer Nation. We'll be back in a couple of weeks to give you even more insight. Volleyball season will be in full swing. Soccer will be really in full swing, and we'll be able to give you even more updates on them to see how well they're doing. If maybe this beginning of this year isn't just a fluke, maybe they really are for real this year. We don't know. We'll see. But that will do it for Jordan Phillips, the effervescent Jordan Phillips.
Absolutely effervescent, always.
I'm Marcus Johnson. Thank you, and have a good one.